Be on call. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome all of you to our board meeting tonight. It is, what is it? Thursday, September 26th, and we are having our studies, or our board meeting. Okay, we'll begin with roll call, and we are going to start with Larry.
Larry Jepson, board member.
Randall Bagley, board member.
Steve Norton, superintendent.
Roger Pulsifer, board member, is excused, and I'm Kathy Christiansen, board member.
Chris Corcoran, board member.
Jeff Nielsen, board member.
Terry Rhodes, board member.
And Dale Hanson, business administrator.
Thank you. We will go ahead and start with the pledge, and the superintendent will lead us in the pledge and then cite our mission statement.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Cache County School District mission statement is, our mission is to educate students for success in a changing world.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to begin right off the bat with recognizing our Cache County School District Teacher of the Year, Laura Hackwell. So we'd like you to come up.
Joel, just grab that mic and come up and stand and face that way so everybody gets to look at her for a long time. It will be.
Did you turn it?
There you go. Yep.
Well, it's a pleasure for me to stand here next to a great teacher. And I've got to tell you, as I was thinking about Laura, how much I appreciate what she does. I'm selfish because I get to work with her. And I don't know if there's a finer teacher that has been able to help impact so many kids. And I've watched her as she not only works with her kids, but as I've solicited responses from her colleagues, her administrators, past and present, from her teachers that she's worked with, SLPs and others, there was an ongoing comment about how much she cares about kids, how much she cares about their parents. And that's witnessed in IEPs. It's witnessed in her interactions with the kids. When she's on the floor, on her knees, interacting with kids, you can tell immediately what kind of a teacher she is. And she cares not only about her kids, but the kids also at Spring Creek. It's not just the kids she works with, but the entire student body. I've heard from principals that how much they appreciate her as a team player. She's not an isolated island at Spring Creek. She works with everybody, and everybody helps and supports her as well. And that team player, that leadership role was manifested in all the comments that I got from her colleagues. Another thing that I appreciate is, as I've witnessed and worked with her, is her willingness to even share with her own team of life skills teachers. And so she's willing to drop for a few minutes and leave her building, leave her aides supported with her kids as she's offering advice to new teachers, life skills teachers and others, and sharing her expertise and skills as she goes down the road guiding and supporting others that are following her. And I highly recommend Laura to our Cache County Board as our Teacher of the Year.
Laura, we'll give the microphone to you.
I really don't want to talk.
And then
Thank
you
you.
three stay in the spot there because we want to get a picture. Okay.
I don't have a speech, and I don't like being put on the spot, but I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate this, and I'm honored, and I love my job, and I love the students, and I love my Spring Creek people, and I couldn't do it without everybody else's support, so thank you.
I think we want to have family come up and get a picture.
Let's get you centered in the middle over here.
You're in.
Yeah, Joe,
Yeah.
you're in.
I don't want to ruin the picture.
Dad, you can come up and get a picture. Come on up. Okay, Dad's gonna get one, so.
And Laura, could we have your family stand? Would Laura's family please stand? Thank
That's her
you.
husband.
We,
Come on up and we'll get a whole family picture. It's what you get for sitting on the back row. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. We appreciate it, and congratulations, Laura. We are proud to have you in our district.
Nicely done, girl.
Okay, we will go ahead and check and see if there's any public input. There's no public input, and so for those of you who came for the recognition, if you want to leave, this is a good time to leave, but we're happy to have you stay as well. We'll go ahead and move on to our consent agenda, and I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
I second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on it.
Dale, I'm not logged in, so I vote yes.
Oh, I don't ever vote, so I don't know.
I approve.
So glad we invested in such an expensive
Terry,
board tool.
that's enough out of you.
I don't know if you can activate him or not.
He can just say, it'll be okay.
I just never log out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are we good? Okay. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to our action agenda, and we have a few items here that we need to get approved. We'll begin with approve for Intech Charter Agreement amendments.
So we have two amendments to the charter that we're proposing. The more significant one is a name change from Intech Collegiate High School to Intech Collegiate Academy, starting next school year to go along with our 7th and 8th grade expansion. The other is a technical amendment to just allow us to add an appendix for when we receive waivers from state board rules.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the Intech. Oh, let me get back to it. Oh, rats. Okay, it's going to take me a minute. Sorry, everybody.
I move that we approve the Intech Charter Agreement amendments.
Thank you.
I second.
Okay, any questions, anyone? All right, we'll go ahead and vote.
Approve. Approve.
And best of luck in your efforts to bring some more kids in at a lower level.
Yeah, that's where we'll need to go in order to maintain our headcount.
Thank you so much.
Can I just say something quickly?
Yeah.
Last year, the math and stat department up at Utah State actually did a little vignette for a scholarship that was actually earned by Jaleesa Gonzalez when she was a student in that department. And we actually took extra footage so that you guys could use it as a part of your recruiting campaign.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to let you know that we probably need to talk because I don't think that that's been used yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. I haven't seen.
So that might help as well since you're expanding to the 8th grade for us to, so I'm assuming you're leaving right now?
Yeah. I enjoy your meetings. I got a date with my wife tonight.
Do you just want to maybe?
Yeah, I'll just,
Yeah, or you can email me up at the university or something, but we should make sure that that's available to you.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, next is the request for the approval of the Skyview High student clubs.
At a previous board meeting, we presented several clubs, and we're hoping that we got their approval this evening.
Okay. Did you find out about the,
You know, we've had
Comments?
lots of people working on, and Mike, are you ready to make comments? Okay.
all right, there's a couple of questions. First of all, can we sponsor a skateboarding club? And then second of all, will they put in their document that they need to wear helmets?
The amendment to their policy they would do, but Kirk McRae, we talked this morning, and first of all, the state will provide liability for any club, okay?
Oh, good.
And the state does not provide a list of clubs you should or should not approve. Said you have to use your own discretion. And I did attach into the board documents a summary. It's down in the reports agenda. You can see the summary of all the schools' clubs. And Kirk reviewed those this morning, and there's a couple, only 2 in all of the schools that he would suggest maybe the board needs to talk about and reconsider. But the liability is taken care of, and yes, the board does approve, but that doesn't mean we have the responsibility or anything else that goes with that. The school still runs it.
Okay. All right.
Can I mention also, I did go back to our skateboarding club students that were trying to get that approved and told them they needed to rework that and revamp it, and they have not got anything back to me at this point. So
Okay.
if and when that comes in, I'll come back to the board with that. But currently, I don't know if they decided against it or what, but they haven't come back and given me anything.
So should we pass the skateboard?
No, I would not.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
wouldn't pass it until you
you
get-
told us it needed to be reworked, and I told the students
Okay.
that, and they just
Okay.
haven't done it.
And definitely, that's the group of students we want to be involved in school.
Right.
So we'll work with them however
Right.
we can. Okay, I'll take a motion then to approve the Skyview High School student clubs.
I move that we approve the Skyview High School student clubs, excluding the skateboarding club at this point until they bring us back some new application.
Okay, second the motion.
Any questions or discussion?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Hanks for dressing up tonight.
I have a 6 o'clock volleyball game at Ridgeline. Sorry.
He is.
We're going to try and
I was
rein our
being
new member in a
sincere.
little.
I was being sincere.
Somebody's got to be the most underdressed guy in the room. I generally am that guy. Thank you very much.
All righty, we'll go ahead and vote then.
Approve.
Approve.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, next we have a request for approval of Green Canyon High School student clubs. And I believe all of these are the same as last time, are they?
Yes.
Okay.
We thank Dr. Lichty, Mike, for presenting the clubs previously. You have, having seen those club requests, are there any questions for us?
Do you have people just scrambling to join the study group club?
I would not use the word scrambling, but we do have a select group.
Oh, I would bet a select group.
Okay, I'll take a motion then to approve the Green Canyon High School student clubs.
I move to approve the Green Canyon High School clubs.
I second.
All righty, any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Approve.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next one will be the approval of Ridgeline High School student clubs.
Ridgeline High School submitted, I think, 8 clubs for your approval, so we're here to ask for that approval.
So we only have 7.
Oh, okay.
Is that what it is?
Must have been.
Okay. All right.
Might have pulled one.
I'll take a motion then to approve the Ridgeline High School student clubs.
I move that we approve the Ridgeline High School clubs.
I second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Approve.
Approve.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is a request for approval of the Mountain Crest High School student clubs.
So we have 3 clubs that we presented to the board at the last meeting, and we did have a little bit of a problem with the second page of the PDF not coming through, but I hope that that was resolved and it came through,
Okay.
and you had a chance to look at it, so.
All right, I'll take a motion then to approve the Mountain Crest High School student clubs.
I move that we approve the Mountain Crest High School student clubs.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Larry.
Larry did.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote.
Approve.
Terry's giving me a bad time tonight.
There we go.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we'd like to, there's a request for approval of the Mountain Crest High School request to adjust the 2010, wait a minute, 2019-2010 School Land Trust budget.
Yes, and this was for our Habitudes program that we were running with our freshman mentor, so.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the request to adjust the 1920 school land trust budget.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Approve.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request for the approval of the Code of Conduct policy. And Kirk McCrae is the one who is supposed to be the presenter, but he's not here, so do we have a sub? No? Should we just wait on that one, or what?
I think maybe I'll take it if there's any questions,
Okay,
you know, that I can take back. I believe he's presented it, so at this point, he's asking for approval, but if there's questions I should take back, I would do
Okay.
that.
all right, I will take will you tell them, okay, remember, I'm the formatting Nazi? They need to format this to match all of the other.
Yeah, we
policies.
we'll send it to Genda, and the Genda does the magic.
Okay,
And
All right.
makes it look right.
okay, I will take a motion then to approve the Code of Conduct policy.
I move that we approve the Code of Conduct policy.
I second it.
Any questions or discussion?
When Kirk was here, he told us a certain percentage of employees who had taken the training and signed digitally signed the Code of Conduct policy. So I was looking forward to his presentation to ask him for an update in that number.
On how many have
Yeah,
completed the training?
yeah.
At least one more. So, maybe 2,
Another one?
3.
I can have him email
We
that,
can get
give you,
some
email you
That'd
the
be great.
information on completions of the course.
Yeah.
And I think all of us are on that list too. If you haven't taken it, you need to go on and take it.
Oh, yeah, look, we could raise the
Yeah.
stats.
We could. All right, I will take a motion then to,
You did that
I will
already.
take a vote. We'll take a vote.
Approve.
Approve.
Yeah, All the votes are in, are unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. Next, there's a request for approval of the mental health policy.
Hello again. I'm seeking approval for an update on our mental health policy, which will replace the general suicide prevention policy as well as the wellness, mental health policy. Those two will be replaced.
Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the mental health policy.
I move that we approve the mental health policy.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions? Okay, let's vote.
Chris.
Kristen.
Approve.
Approve.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the request for the approval of the elementary before and after school fees and student club fees.
Yes, I want to thank Mike. He presented this last time. I had a conflict, so I wasn't here, but if you have any questions, I can.
I'll take a motion, excuse me, to approve the elementary before and after school fees and student club fees.
Can I have one
Yes.
comment before? If you go to the second page of the fee form, it talked about the a fee for these clubs, I think it said $10. The principals are asking that we take away the $10 and put on there as published. They say these different clubs will vary, and it's nothing that can be waived. It's just, they said $10 and some just won't do.
Okay.
So they're asking if the board would approve for me to put in there as published.
Okay.
And where would they publish that?
When they actually request for the club, they have to put that amount in.
All right, so I will take a motion to approve the elementary before and after school fees and student club fees as published. Correct?
Change it from $10 to as published.
Oh, to change it from $10 to as published.
I move that we approve the elementary before and after school fees and the student club fees to as published, change it from $10.
I second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, we'll vote.
Approve.
Approve.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. All right, next we have a request for approval of the Johnson Controls Phase 2 project. And
Don't get too frightened. This is a lot of paper, but we're just going to cover the page. So I've heard this is more in the spirit of.
can I have one more here? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Peter White. For those of you who don't remember, Scott Reese was unable to make it tonight. He had a family emergency, so he gives you his warm welcome and thanks. So I'm going to go to page 8, okay? So if you recall, several months ago, we actually entered into a phase 1, which was some initial lighting that we did at about 11 sites or so. And we entered into that to kind of help us get along with some engineering time, get some product ordered. We also were very concerned about some of the tariffs at that time that were being discussed at the border, so we were trying to take advantage of that. I think we have about 3 schools that are about 90–95% done. We have all the product here, all the engineering's done. The rest of the schools will go pretty quickly, and we're doing those in non-peak times at the schools to not disrupt the classroom environment. So you'll see the completion of phase 1. So it's on track and moving along. So for phase 2, we ended up getting into the balance of a lot of the other buildings from a lighting perspective, and then also we looked at a lot of the buildings that had more comprehensive improvement measures to take a look at. So on page 8, you'll see kind of the dynamics of why we think it's a good idea to move and obviously move today on the projects. Our organization was offering a discount that ends at the end of September 30th. It allows you to take advantage of quite a bit of money in terms of savings, about $43,000 in product costs on building automation. And you have a lot of the building automation, some of our older systems in your schools. So that was a kind of a compelling event. We have the ability to lock into utility rebates. A lot of the utility rebates are going to start to get leaner and leaner every year. And so this allows us to take advantage of more energy rebates than you would if you were to wait until next year or the year thereafter. And the reason being is that LED lighting, quite frankly, is just becoming such an easy economic decision to make. Some of those incentives that are the rebates are starting to go away. And we're seeing this all around the country. The other notion that we have been talking about, we've been working with Dale and our team as well to make sure that we get good interest rates on the monies that we're borrowing. We had a set up a master lease for phase one, which we would move into phase two, and we're going to help any way we can to continue that. So it's a good time to get funding that way right now, low interest rates. I think I've mentioned the tariffs before. The savings, obviously there's a compelling event there. Just with the phase two implementation, there's about $300,000 worth of annual savings. So the cost of delay just means that you're paying the utilities more to the utility company and not putting it into your facilities. The a couple of the issues that we ran into, in terms of parity amongst schools. In the high schools, we wanted to provide some cooling. We did look at a very comprehensive a retrofit for cooling, which was more costly than what we could put into this particular program at this phase at this time. So you'll see later on that we zeroed in on the auditoriums. They tend to get some heavy use and get really hot at key times. So that's something that is included in this, and it'll help in terms of parity. And then, of course, we actually have excess savings. There's more savings to pay for the phase one, which we're leveraging in phase two to do more infrastructure renewal. So that's rolled into this project as well. So I will go on to page 11 and just talk a little bit about the retrofits that we're doing. And if you have any questions and you want me to cover anything else, just let me know. But in terms of the retrofits, again, we're doing the balance of the buildings for LED conversion. The retrofit that we do for plug load, you may not be familiar with this, but a lot of equipment that's plugged into your outlets at night, even if it's off, it has what they call a trickle charge, and they're consuming a slight amount of energy. We actually put plug load control mechanisms that'll basically get rid of that leak, that electrical consumption. The other nice thing that you're going to see is that you're going to get a nice, you'll have some new receptacles out of that in terms of what people can plug into. So it's kind of a nice dual function there. The control system upgrades. Some of your systems were first and second generation direct digital controls. All that means is that they're 15 plus years old. We're converting them to more of an open platform so that they can communicate more easily with equipment and buildings. There's about 7 buildings that we're doing control retrofits on, and so we prioritize that with. In fact, I'd like to give a shout out with Bruce and Bruce. They've really helped us work on streamlining exactly what you want to buy here and what gives you the biggest bang for your buck, because we've all put a lot of time in on these meetings just to make sure you get exactly what you need. So that was a big improvement. Over at Skyview, we've decided to put in some T-bar ceilings. When we do the lighting conversion, it's going to allow us to actually put in drop-in troffer light fixtures similar to what you have here, as opposed to just retrofitting those lamps and then having some old ceilings that were just somewhat problematic. So that's going to add to the beauty of that building. The conversations we had on that, quite frankly, were that that building's got good bones, as they say. It's going to be around a long time if you take really good care of it, and this is a really good time to invest in that. That'll kind of modernize the look. Building envelope and weatherization. This is just a good way for us to save some energy. It's caulking, leaks, door seals, things of that nature. And it's there's a lot to cover just because of the square footage that you have here in the district. So this is a great shot in the arm to get a lot of that work done. Window film at the administrative building. We have some opaque panels on a greenhouse that we're going to be converting, so it's similar to all the other greenhouses that you have, but we're fixing up one of those. The other thing we took a look at for your pools, because that's so important to the district with your competition pools and the events that you have here, we wanted to take a look at pool covers, and a lot of times we'll take a look at a mechanized solution for that. But anymore, a lot of the pools are going to a liquid pool cover, and what it does is it insulates the temperature and the moisture from leaking out of the pool, and it's a great solution. It's a lot less maintenance. It's a lot less potential for any kind of safety hazards or anything like that. So we're excited about that. In addition to that, we're also going to be doing a modification that's going to minimize the amount of chlorine that you'll have to purchase to chlorinate the pools. We actually have a system that's going in that actually takes the water and you create your own chlorination through the process that it goes through. So that's really nice. What we see, the more modern pools in the country, they're utilizing that. So it'll be a nice retrofit. It'll be really good for the pool manager. I think they'll really like that. Just to wrap things up here, the cooling, we did take a look at Skyview, Mountain Crest, and we're going to provide cooling for the auditoriums. Then we got into the need for coming up to one of the state requirements to have CO monitoring in the schools. And so at Skyview and Mountain Crest, we've been working with Bruce and Bruce to come up with the best solution for that. And at Skyview, there's going to be a fire alarm upgrade and a CO system upgrade. And then at Mountain Crest, we're also going to do the CO. And just so that if you aren't familiar with that, the state had passed a requirement to monitor the levels of carbon monoxide just to make sure you have enough fresh outside air coming into the classroom. So one, it's a nice code, but it's also a challenge financially. The nice thing is that we were able to, as we do this big project, you kind of get the economies of scale. So we think that it's a more effective way to actually procure at the same time. So you'll be able to take advantage of our project management, the fact that we're in the buildings and doing that. So we've been working hard on that. We've wrapped all that up. We worked with the administration to create a financial package that would work. And so today, that's what we're looking for, is to get your endorsement on that. And we'll be back, I think, probably the first or at the tail or at the beginning of the second week of October to kick off phase 2 if we get the nod from you today.
Okay. I will take a motion then to approve the Johnson Controls Phase 2 project.
Can I just say one word before? I'm sure there are times when these people would have liked to have just put a dagger through my heart or at least smashed my brain saying, can the guy not make a decision? I'm a firm believer that on projects that affect the whole district, that I want some unanimity among my people that I work with. It took a while to get to where we were all comfortable with this project. And that's why I pushed the board meeting back a week. But I want you to know that Bruce have, I think, given great direction to this district. They have provided just great effort and resources over the years that they've been involved with our facilities. I was down in Arizona again and went to a new high school that's probably maybe 10 years old. And I asked my son, when was this thing built? Because I was in the gymnasium and I was absolutely appalled at how dirty it was and how much damage and everything had been done to a school that's far newer than almost everything we have in our district. So we've kept good care of our buildings, and I think this is a great investment. I really do. Skyview, I think, will be around for probably 30, 40, maybe even more years than that. And we owe it to upgrade those classrooms. And I think the economy of scale and my faith in Johnson Control goes back 30 years ago. They were honest then, and I have no reason to believe that they aren't going to be that kind of company that works with us as we go through this. So I just want you to know, appreciate it. I'm sorry it took us so long.
No, I tell you, this whole thing's a privilege, so without sounding like I'm, sucking up.
And I needed-
This is a true privilege to work with your district.
So I recommend that we do go down with them and complete these projects.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll take a request for the approval of the Johnson, a motion for the approval of Johnson Controls Phase 2 project.
I move that we approve the Johnson Controls Phase 2 project.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Can I ask a question about the pool?
Sure, yeah.
I just want to know how those liquid pool covers work. Sorry, I've been in swimming a long time, so I just want to know.
Sure. I'll give you my layman's terms and chime in if I screw it up, or do you want to take this? The brains behind the
I just-
operation. Jose's been our lead engineer here.
I just know that the mechanical pool covers don't get put on a lot because they're just annoying for the pool managers and everyone else who has to put them on or take them off. And so if you have a faster, quicker way to do that, I'm all in.
Yeah, so we looked at both. Actually doing mechanical physical covers that are basically automatic, where you flip a switch and they roll into the pool, or flip again and roll back out. And this other solution, which is a lot more cost effective, is different, but it accomplishes the same thing. And it's called a liquid pool cover. So what it is, it's a liquid that floats to the surface of the pool and creates a film, a very thin film on the surface of the pool that prevents water from evaporating. So that prevents you losing heat through evaporation, and also prevents, all this moisture in the natatorium, which causes corrosion and other problems. And so the liquid pool cover sits in the mechanical room, and through an automatic feeder is injected into the distribution piping, back into the pool. So it always creates that film that floats on the surface of the pool. And it's perfectly safe. I mean, obviously, it has been around for a long time. It's nothing new. You're not guinea pigs into this. They've installed this in pools all over the country. And they have certifications from the Health and Safety Administration saying that it's perfectly safe for people to swim in it. So that's how they work.
And it's automatic, works, and you as a swimmer are, you're not going to feel it or anything.
It's transparent. You can't see it. You can't feel it. You can taste it.
And it's in the bottom of the pool?
No, it floats to the surface of the pool.
It's slightly lighter than water if you think about it in terms of density, and so it just gradually just.
Who invented that? Holy
No,
cow.
we've been doing it a lot, and it's, back to your point, mechanical pool covers are awesome, but they're a maintenance nightmare. Nobody wants to do them. They take a lot of time. You got to stand there, and then the cogs, have problems. This is just a great way to go. And it's also going to reduce a lot of the, the condensation you get on the walls too. It helps there as well. So it's a good solution.
So so is it, you say it's automated, so does that mean it's timed at a certain time of day that it's injected into the pool, and then it covers the pool surface for overnight, and then what happens?
So basically, the automatic feeder has a dose. The manufacturer recommends a specific dose, so many ounces per day that need to be injected into the pool. So the automatic feeder every couple of hours will inject the required dose to maintain that same level of coverage on the
So during a regular day, it's just mixed in the water.
Yeah, it's always
So
mixed in
the
the
pool
water.
has to sell.
It's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does it have to be removed, or does it just stay there and it keeps getting added to as
It
needed?
stays there and it keeps getting added because, as kids swim in it and they splash, somebody gets lost. So it needs to be replenished. And that's why you have that automatic feeder, just to kind of keep replenishing it all the time.
Wow.
I just kind of Googled it here. It says it's just a microscopic thin layer of alcohol, and it only requires 4 ounces per 20,000 gallons of water.
That's exactly it.
Don't you love Google?
Yeah.
All right.
Good
Any-
question,
Thank
though.
you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Just as a matter of public record. I also want to endorse what Superintendent Norton said about Johnson and about Bruce as well, and the work that he does for this district. Having, worked on 2 task forces for our previous 2 bonds, I've been able to observe the magic tricks that Bruce has done for, I guess, almost the last 20 years that I've been a close observer and working with Johnson and with the resources that he has, the limited resources he has. I think every organization could use somebody like Bruce, but I just want to just tell you how much I appreciate the homework you've done on this and saving, I think, the taxpayers a lot of money and how constructively you've responded to Dr. Norton and his concern for making sure that this is fiscally doable. But I just want to say that as a matter of record. I think that you guys have done a tremendous job planning for this and ensuring that, the district has the funds to cover it.
They've really added so much to what we were thinking of, so they've come up with great ideas.
Great. Well, thanks to all of you. We appreciate everyone who's involved in this. And we will go ahead and take a vote.
Yeah, there was already a motion.
Okay, approved.
Thank you. Drive safe.
Yeah, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
All right, thank you. Yep. Thanks for all of the hard work here on the district level, getting this all put together and calling us in and giving us some information ahead of time. That was helpful as well. All right, we'll go down to our report section, and we'll begin with the parent and family engagement policy. And Robin.
Thank you. I know it was short notice, but we're moving towards compliance with the new ESSA regulations and with the new state plan that they've.
Explain ESSA.
Oh, it's Title I. It's Every Student Succeed Act. It was the old ESEA plan. You can go back clear to 1965, but it's for kids at risk. That Title I would be students that are poor. Title III is your ESL students, and Title VI are your Native American students. So we're addressing those titles specifically in this policy because under those provisions, we're required to have a parent-family engagement policy. And so to be in compliance with that, this is what we've put together, and we've also linked the actual law within the policy. And I gave you some supporting documents because at the district level, what we do is we support schools and what they have set up as family-parent engagement policies because they're the ones involved with the families and the parents. And so in your supporting documents, you can see, well, first you'll see that we do have a Title I parent engagement LEA plan for us. And it's not part of the policy, it's part of our plan. And it shows we'll support the schools. And then the next page, you can see Lewiston Elementary. There's a nice, example of their family engagement policy. They have it as a draft because the school community council puts this together, and they'll meet on Friday to discuss it, change it, or I guess to ratify it within their community. So that's what they're doing with their policy. And then in conjunction with that, we need a school parent-family compact. It's just kind of a contract that teachers work out with parents and students as, what's your responsibility, what's my responsibility, so that students succeed in school. And then there's signatures at the bottom, and they revisit those during parent-teacher conferences. And occasionally, when situations arise, it's a nice document to go back to. So that's kind of the process, but with the policy on the top to be in compliance that we as a school district have a policy that's compliant with the law.
Anyone have questions?
The only thing we have in board docs is the policy.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We don't have the Lewiston documents or the...
Because those will change every year.
Right.
Yeah.
But you
oh,
just
in your
said
board
that-
docs. That
Yeah, we
is
don't have it.
correct. It occurred to me this morning that you probably needed to follow a process of how this really looks, and so I ran
I've
this
seen that one at Lewiston, and it's great.
Yeah, and this is the brand-new one
Okay.
that they've put together for this year, because they needed to add a few more things just because the compliance issues they're always changing from year to year, and this is the time they change, and we need to report back by deadline of October 1st for this. Oh, yes, if you want me to add them to board docs, that won't be a problem. I'll have Lorraine
I'm sorry, I just thought that you had, and
No.
that you would, that's why you're referring to them as attachments in board docs.
So I apologize. It was one of those midnight thoughts thinking, oh, maybe I should do that. So,
So on your original one here, I can't get my screen to move for some reason, the parent and family engagement in education, it's pretty short.
yep, it
Is
just
that
refers
it?
back, it refers back to whatever's in those laws under those different title programs.
Okay.
And so, yes, it's just short because, in essence, we support whatever the school community councils have come up with.
Okay.
And then that refers back into each school's Title I plan that must be submitted to the state and to the district.
When you finish this off, will you have agenda?
Oh, yes, for
Okay.
sure. Yep.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we don't have to vote on this, right?
No, it's just a report.
Okay, we'll move on then. Thank you, Robin. Okay, the 2019-2020 Special Education Policies and Procedures Manual update.
What I presented to you is the new 2019-20 version of the special education manual of what we try to do every year. One of the reasons I took this, and I obviously, you know, from year to year, it varies a little bit, and I know Kathy had mentioned that it is 69 fun-filled pages for you, and thank you. It typically involves special education rules, parameters, things that we try to work with in our special ed field. The one thing that I think may vary from this year to last year was the policies and procedures that we talked about with patterns of strengths and weaknesses that you helped us approve a few weeks ago. And you'll note on page, I think it's 15 or 16, or a combination of those two pages as you go through it. We've added that to the manual to update it from last year. And so that would be my only recommendation, is that you would refer back to the policy of our patterns of strengths and weaknesses that our school psychologists will be utilizing to better identify children with specific learning disabilities. So, thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. All right, next, the high school club summaries.
So just for your information, I had the schools complete this, and so you can see all the different clubs that are there. When Kirk just reviewed those, the two that he pointed out, if you, in Ridgeline, there's a rugby club. He said, we may want to consider that. And at Skyview, Whitewater Club. The others, he felt pretty good about. So maybe as a board, you guys think about that, and I'll go talk to these schools to see what they think about it, and maybe we'll make some changes on those.
Is it because of the safety issues?
It's just the liability,
they're
not to
not
take
covered?
excessive.
They're covered.
They are covered, but it's just
It's just that there's a liability there.
the excessive liability.
Oh.
You know, whitewatering,
Yeah.
no, probably shouldn't do that.
And you said the state has no restrictions on what?
No, they just said they won't publish a list.
Okay.
So what would we do? The next time you bring this to us, we would just say
I would
yay
talk to
or
the
nay?
principals, and if they agreed, we'd just remove them
Okay.
from the
Okay.
clubs.
So I have a question about the rugby club, because recent things that I've read says that you see concussions less in rugby than you do in football. because in general, football players feel like because they have so much padding and helmets, et cetera, that they play harder than someone who has nothing, like in rugby. And so I'm not sure that, so I think that we should consider that before we say we're not going to accept a rugby club.
And another thing Kirk said on rugby says there's a lot of that out there that's club. And it says that don't know that we need to compete against a club with
So
rugby.
do we have a lot of rugby clubs at our high school?
I don't even know how they keep the rules in rugby.
I don't
I-
either.
There's one
No.
club in Cache Valley, it's
Yeah.
a rugby club.
Yeah.
My son who used to play.
Like hockey.
But it's
Yeah.
not from a school?
No, it's a club.
It's just a
It's
club.
It's a
club.
community
Sport.
club.
It's club, yeah.
Well, are there some in the high schools right
Yeah,
now?
in the state?
No, here in our district.
No.
One
Nobody is.
One at Ridgeline.
at Ridgeline.
Oh, okay.
To Terry's point, though, like soccer also, there's a lot of concussions in
Yeah.
soccer, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
soccer has more
It's a-
concussions.
I'm just telling you what
No, that's-
Kirk
I-
shared,
yeah.
you
But
know,
it-
and
there are communities and actually schools that, in the Salt Lake Valley, who have done rugby for many years. Let us have a chance to talk to them and see
Okay.
see what's going on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for doing that
Yep.
research. All right, we'll move down to the board committee reports. First of all, Larry, would you like to give us an update on the board policy committee?
We met on the 10th, I believe it was, and we have decided that we will meet for the time being on a quarterly basis. And what we've done is we've established ownership of all the policies so that we know which ones belong with who. And then we are beginning now to systematically look at which policies we feel need to be reviewed as a first priority. And we put out some suggestions for the next 3 months for certain policies to be looked at and reviewed, and see if we can bring them to the board with reports of whether there need to be changes or if we just need to show that it's been reviewed and move forward.
Does anyone have questions on how this is working? This is
Sounds
awesome.
good, yeah.
Yeah, this is
That's-
awesome, because Larry finally took the bull by the horns and figured out how we could get started on this, and both Agenda and Tim are working with the committee, and the different departments are the ones that'll kind of look at it and get it back to
Right.
us. So it's not a whole lot of work for one group of people. It's been spread out.
No, that's nice.
So thanks, Larry. I think this is awesome. This will be good to get that caught up. We will skip Roger's presentation, and Terry, do you want to report on your budget poster, your new budget poster?
I forgot the poster.
Oh.
So I'm gonna give it to you digitally.
Okay.
So if you wanna talk about ACES.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I went to another meeting for ACES. They have a huge committee. Not everybody shows up for every meeting, but they are working towards trying to make this whole valley a trauma-informed valley. And you might have seen if you take the Herald Journal, that this morning their deputy, what's his name, Lieutenant Governor Cox wants to make the state of Utah a trauma-informed state, because he fits into that category as one of those kids that made it through with a lot of help from some loving, caring adults. But I think we have done a really good job in our district in getting everybody at least educated to what ACES is, except I'm kind of wondering about the classified employees. And I don't know if they've seen the film and had the presentation, but it seems to me that that would be a group that really should have that training, because they spend time with those kids where they're not trying to make it work.
Okay, let
And
me
stay
see,
on
I'll
task.
find out.
Okay. Washington School District and Bear River, Fox Elder School District have really jumped in with both feet on this. And so if we ever need any help or guidelines or suggestions, those would probably be two districts.
Washington and who?
And Box Elder.
Box Elder.
Yeah. Superintendent
Carlson?
is really on board for it. So, yeah, it's kind of nice to see this word getting out to everyone. And so all of us can learn. That's the next step, I think, is for us to learn what to do when we run across these children. Okay, are you ready to go? Okay.
Okay, so hopefully you have this projected on your screen in front of you.
Got it.
This is a copy of this is a replica of a slide that they used in the town hall meetings that the Legislative Task Force for Tax Reform used in their slideshows at the town hall meetings. This is a replica of one of those slides that I asked Jenda to make for me in poster form, like my little poster that I do with District Finance every year, because I want to talk to people at PTA meetings and school community council meetings and let them know this is what's happening. And I took it to Senator Hilliard and had a little tete-a-tete with him. I got home and I asked Kevin, wow, if he was my attorney, how much would he have charged me for that hour? He said, you couldn't afford him. So I appreciated that he sat with me, he gave me an hour and answered all my questions. He asked me some questions. It was the best conversation I've ever had with him. However, one of the things that I learned about after visiting with him about this specific slide is on this property tax, because I called him to question on the property tax silo there. So what this represents is the state funding silos as they currently stand. So property tax, unfortunately, how they presented it shows that property tax only goes to public education, which is not true. And so he said they only represent the amount of property tax in the state that goes to public ed. That silo is not all of property tax. So, which I felt was kind of misrepresenting.
Why would they do that? Yeah, why would they do that?
Because they have an agenda to remove the silos of funding. My personal feeling is if they didn't feel like they were going to have such a backlash from so many people, they would have done it already. So the property tax silo on this graphic is only the state portion that goes to public ed. And then he reminded me, so make sure you tell people that it's the legislature that authorizes property tax, not you, and we tell you what rate you can charge. So you just collect it for us.
And that's absolutely true.
And I said, okay, I'll be happy to relay that. And so the income tax piece shows public ed and higher ed, and I was mistaken. I thought, if you look on the sales tax silo, I thought the little arrow going from the general fund to higher education had already been finished starting with this year. And he tells me there are 2 more years left that they will siphon money from the general fund to higher ed, and after that, then they expect higher ed to be 100% funded by income tax.
Well, then I would suggest that you use a toothpick to be the
Yeah,
arrow.
exactly.
Because it's a mighty small.
It is a very small piece, and he acknowledges that. And also, in the gas tax, the amount that's there is not, well, the gas tax collected is accurate, but it shows, so it shows two pieces going into transportation, one from, that comes solely from gas tax, and then another blue arrow from the general fund. But there's also another piece to that, which is a federal funding. So the two pieces going into gas tax on this poster, or going into transportation on this poster, are equivalent and about $600 million. And then there's another piece which is also $600 million that comes from federal funding. And then, so essentially what the task force is saying is that sales tax is not keeping up with the needs in the general fund, and so they would like to remove the barriers on income tax to allow income tax to fund other things. So then I asked him, well, in our school district, if we have an unexpected increase in property tax that we collect, then it's called an overage. So at the state, you call things a surplus. You say there are revenue surpluses. I said, so tell me where that comes from. Mostly income tax, right? Well, I said, so I know how we decide what is a surplus. How do you decide what is a surplus? And he said that they take what they spent last year on education, on public ed and higher ed, and they estimate that they'll spend about that much with a little bit for growth. And so then everything above that they've collected as income tax, they can declare as surplus. And which this last year, 2-point-something billion, right? Surplus?
I think it was 1.3 billion.
Well, the other interesting thing, I listened to 3 hours of the tax reform committee meeting 2 weeks ago, and there are some interesting people on that committee who don't really understand education. And so anyway, so then Senator Hilliard wanted to explain to me that, well, you need to understand the difference. When I suggested that most of the state surplus in revenue comes from income tax, he said, well, you need to understand the difference between one-time spending and ongoing. I said, I already understand that. And he said, well, because, so anyway, so essentially what they're doing is lopping off income tax, calling it a surplus so that they can redistribute it where they want it to be distributed, which we do also at the district. And so anyway, this is just the poster that I'm using this year to try and educate some of our public to understand if this comes before them on a ballot, as a ballot initiative, which the task force would like to see done. I don't, current feelings among USBA members, as I talk to them at the Leadership Academy, people who are on the Hill often, feel like that they're probably going to compromise and do some other things. We'll hope for that. But if this comes before the public, I want some of our public to be educated. So that's my point with this poster. Sorry for that long explanation.
No, that was great. I think it would be good for us to get a copy of this so we have it and we can look at it and be able to explain it to the people in our precinct when they have questions. So do you think Jenda would make us a copy, just a paper copy of it, or send it?
Oh, yeah, she totally can, because this
Okay.
came from her.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So I thought I heard you say that if they declare it surplus, it makes it available for the whole thing?
Yeah, because this last year, as I've studied, there's a on the le.utah.gov website, there is a budget.gov page that has a similar presentation as our State of the District report. And it's very understandable, but they're very pleased with themselves. And as a taxpayer, I understand it. As a person who advocates for education, I'm a little frustrated, but they're very happy that they used surplus money to pay for the new prison in Gunnison to finish paying for the overages there so that they didn't have to finance that over time. And so, yes, they can redistribute it where they want because they call it surplus, and it's one-time money.
So they're already doing what they want to do,
Yeah.
just they don't dare do it to the extent they want to do
And
it.
they don't dare call it what it is.
Yeah.
Well, and legally, they can't do too much with it because it's in the Utah Constitution that these silos are set up by the Utah Constitution. And so that's why they would have to put it to a vote of the public, because it would require an amendment of the Utah Constitution to remove these silos and to remove the barriers between the silos and put it all into one pot. So
What
it
kind of a
would-
majority would it take to change that? I mean, since it's an amendment to the Constitution, does it require a higher
No.
number? Really?
It just requires a majority.
Simple majority?
A majority vote of the populace.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure in order to get it there that it isn't a 2/3 vote of the legislature. Though, is
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have to have that.
Yeah.
But that's where it would come from, is from the legislature and be recommended by this task force, if it happens. I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that, but if it does, I really want some of our local people to be educated
Sure.
about that. Because if you think about the question 1 that was on the ballot last year about the crazy convoluted way that it was written for an increase in gas tax to benefit education. It will be a similar convolution of words. And so if we have some people who at least know what this is and can explain it to their neighbors, then they can talk about whatever the wording is on it, this is what it means.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked Jenda to make this poster.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate all of the work that you have gone to try and understand the finances in the state and in the district, and I think your knowledge is just really helpful to all of us. It really is good for us to try to understand and know it, and if you'll get us copies of that, so when we talk to our school community councils, we can explain it, that'd be awesome. Do you have any other questions for Terry on this? Some of it's just like, whew, with me on it. So, okay, we'll go ahead and move on, and it looks like Randall and Chris, you're just going to share one thing from the USBA leadership training that you thought was good. So we'll start with you, Randall.
Yeah, the very last thing I attended, the conference, I thought was really good. I learned a lot. The title was Tax Increment Funding and Local School Board Participation, which is when a business wants to come in and they want a tax break. And we went through one a few years ago with Young Honda, I believe who it was. And they said that the key to this is when someone wants to do this is that you have to have some type of policy. A lot of companies will come in and they'll want an answer right now. But if you have a policy that states that you are going to bring it up and have it read in the school board at least 2 or 3 times, then it gives you a chance to think about it. And you need to make sure it's a business you want here so you can negotiate. A lot of ones will put a policy in that they're going to put a third-party consultant to come in and analyze the situation, and that the company that wants to locate has to pay for that. So that's quite common to do that, up to $5,000, and they said that's a good thing to do. They say you need to look and see what the business is. They says the worst thing you want to do is let housing come in. Housing is going to be terrible because it's only taxed at 55%. So that's a no-no. You don't want that in there. And also it may cause you to build another school because you're getting more students in there, which is something you may not want. And they say retail is better than housing, but it's not the best here. A lot of that will go to sales tax. But they said the best thing you can do is if you can get like a software company, someplace like that, that's where you're going to bring in the income. You can also negotiate with the city that they're going to bring in a certain amount of jobs. Also that you can do internships with the business, things like that. You want to make sure that you're aware of the building. Box Elder School District here had a Niagara bottling plant come in, and they thought that was really going to help it, but it was pretty much a big metal building that didn't have a lot of value, not near as much as they thought. So they thought they kind of got shortchanged with that. They thought it was going to be a nice big building, but it wasn't. And so that's something you want to look at. They say a lot of school boards will actually have a committee that will look in this. They'll have 2 or 3 board members that will do it. I think it's the Alpine District that had Micron come in and build a building there. And they says that's just done wonders for them. Not only is it their leading source of income, but they're also their biggest contributor. They give them all types of money for other projects and stuff. So they said it's really helped them out. So I did get a copy of Canyon School District, their policy. I don't know, do we have a policy on?
I don't think we
like
do.
that? But I'll give that to you. We
Dell
could-
and I have a policy that we're not going down that
Not
road.
gonna do it.
But it's not a board policy.
But yeah, but the thing is, you got to negotiate with them and make sure it's something you want. And so you negotiate years. They might want it to go for 20 years, and you say no, we're going to do it for 6. So, like
And
that.
that's exactly what Dale did with Young Auto, and that worked out better
Yeah.
for us. But we've lost our shirts on a few of those, well, at least one we know of, huh? Okay, thank you. That's really interesting, and then you'll just kind of follow through with that and see
Yeah.
if that's something
Yeah.
that you would be interested in doing.
It probably would help just to have some policy that would just make it so that there's plenty of time to consider.
Yeah.
And, maybe a committee,
The
Okay.
third-party consultant's a good thing.
Yeah.
Bring them in and say, hey, how's this going to benefit us? Are we
Yeah.
going to
Okay.
do it?
Okay, thank you. All right, Chris.
Thanks. I think one of the sessions that resonated most with me was the one about, I guess it was about legislative relations. One of the moderators for that session, one of the presenters, was the superintendent for the Davis School District.
Yeah.
He's seems like a pretty pragmatic guy, pretty constructive. And I actually talked to him after the session for a little bit about this because he raised some issues that didn't have, weren't as directly connected to how you work with the legislature, but it was still interesting, especially coming on the heels of the Truth and Taxation session. And by the way, I really like what you said about Senator Hilliard's comments about make sure that people know that the property tax comes from, legislative authorization, because that kind of stuck out to me too in the Truth and Taxation hearing. I mean, we of course were doing nothing more than what the legislature authorizes to do based on a public vote. And so I feel like, a lot of the public who attended completely misconstrued the purpose of the meeting. Because they're not realizing that, this is already authorized, it's already voted on. It's a good idea to make sure that people understand what's happening, but at the same time, one of the issues that he raised, I can't remember his name, do you know who it is?
Reed Newey.
Yeah. Anyway, he raised the issue of return on investment, which I had talked about with Tim Smith after the Truth and Taxation meeting. I mean, if you have an organization with the budget that you have, with a CEO who's paid what you're paid, which is not as much as a CEO for a private company who would be managing a similar organization with a similar budget, number of employees, customers who you can think of as the students and their families, and maybe even more indirectly the citizens of the district. For the Cache County School District to return what they do consistently on that investment is astonishing. I mean, if it was a private company and the return on investment was something comparable with what the Cache County District delivers, you know, there would be a gigantic IPO for that company. And, you know, and like I said, I was talking a little bit with Tim about this after, and so that's why this stuck out to me when they were discussing this at this session, because I would really like to see, you know, ultimately, as a district, and maybe the board can facilitate this, I'd like to see some report, much like a company would give to its shareholders.
Yeah, financial.
That just really, very simply, you know, lays out what the return on investment is in this district. You know, that would require us knowing what our shareholders value. You know, I mean, there may be things that are straightforward, like graduation rates, you know, college placement, things like that. I mean, we all here know that the Cache County District outperforms, you know, a lot of districts that are much better funded than this one. But if we had, you know, if we framed it in that way, then I think that that would be really of value, I think, along with the, you know, the schematic that you've worked on with taxation, but to frame it in that way, in a way that educates the public about what, you know, what are we in the business of doing, and what is the return on the investment that the public's making. I think that, you know, I think that would be a great way of preempting some of the public concern we see sometimes about, you know, some of the hand-wringing they do about how much money is spent and where it's going. That just really resonated with me in that session, just, you know, especially framed by the truth and taxation.
Since you're now located over in the School of Business, could I ask a favor of you? Why don't you take our State of the District report and see what it would take to add to that, or whether we start afresh, because it doesn't go into finances, but it does go into results. But I would be really interested to see what somebody with your background would say. Well, if this was going to go to stockholders, we would need to add these areas of data.
The State of the District report does have 2 pages of finance on it, because
Yeah.
that's what I've taken my district finance poster from, presentation from.
But we are presenting that in a manner that,
It's not easy to read.
no, and it's
It's too
more
long.
just, this is how what our district operates on.
And I think there's a good reason for that. I mean, you have to have a comprehensive report, for sure, but I think that there are different contexts that you can
Yeah.
put this information in.
So I would just like the
That might be
expertise that
useful
comes
in
from
different
your
settings.
building. Because I don't have that, we don't, I mean, even if you had a grad student, just say, would like to take on a project and come up with a, you know, I'm just trying.
I actually thought of that leaving the meeting, and I'd love to do that if you wouldn't mind. I mean, it might be something that we could turn over to,
Yeah.
you know, a marketing or a
Yeah.
finance class and
Yep.
have them do it as a project.
Yeah,
And
I'm
just
I'm
have
thinking
us,
that-
you know, how would you present this
Yeah.
if we were concerned about shareholders understanding the return on
Because
investment?
if there's one thing that I've found really hard to understand in all my years in this state is why a system that is underfunded, as much as this one is, and still yet produces results that are at least above average across the nation, why that wouldn't be celebrated. But it's not.
No, I know.
Yeah, and it's not celebrated by people who are really capitalists, and you would think would say, the return on our investment is really good. Let's see if we invested a little more, what we could get out of it. But instead, it's, well, yeah, if we can get it for that price, then let's see if maybe we can cut a little, just a little bit more. Let's just lower income tax just a little bit more and see if it doesn't, if the results don't stay pretty steady, you know. Just really strange to me that this state would be that way.
Well, let me talk to a couple people.
Yeah.
And just see what might be viable, and then I'll report back.
Okay, that'd be great, thanks, appreciate that. Okay, for the finishing up part here on the board president report, first of all, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone for going to the convention conference up in Midway.
Park City?
Yeah, it was in Midway. Midway.
Was it Midway?
Yeah, it's always my favorite one. I like it better than the others. It just seems like the things are.
So where did they hold it?
Midway.
At Midway at the Zermatt.
Okay, because I'm gonna say the
There's not much
place
there.
across the street is starting to die. You know, I just went to Zermatt.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, thanks for attending. And then there has been, from time to time, just mentioned that different people would like different training on certain things. And this was in one of the handouts that we got, that Steve gave us. On just a quick self-evaluation of each individual. But I thought maybe we could use it, if you go down this list and you find something you think, oh yeah, I don't get that, or I don't understand that, or I'd like to know more about it, just put a check mark by it and hand it to me. And then we'll just try and work them in throughout this next year with some short training sessions on some things that you maybe feel like you would like to know a little bit more about. And the first one kind of interested me. Each board member has a copy of her job description. Would you say that our board handbook is that, or is the job description different?
I would sure think it was, but if it's not, we can add that to it.
All right, so anyway, if you think it's
Should be.
different, it's something we need to do, then add that. But how about if you get it to me by next meeting, which will be next week? Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, does anybody have anything else? This is such a great group of people. I feel like I'm coming and spending an hour with my friends when I come, really. It is just so fun to come and be here with you. And I appreciate all that you do on the board and the high integrity that you have and your willingness to be on committees and go the extra mile. So just thanks so much, and we appreciate our great business administrator and great superintendent and all of our district people. We are so lucky here to have so many great people working to educate our children and prepare them for success in their lives. So thanks so much. And if no one has anything else, this meeting.
One comment.
Oh, yeah, you're the superintendent.
Tuesday night is, we're meeting with legislators. I don't know if you've got that on your
Morning.
calendar.
Morning.
Is it morning?
It's morning.
Oh, is it Tuesday morning?
Yeah, that
Oh.
was the last thing I
Are you
had.
talking about the luncheon and the school visits, or are you talking about?
I'm talking about what Carolyn was talking about.
It's the legislative
It's
lunch.
It's the lunch.
Lunch.
Yes.
Okay, what did I say?
Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning.
Did I say Tuesday evening or something?
Yeah, it's
No.
the
Okay,
night.
well, I didn't even know I said evening.
Okay.
Everything's usually in the evening. Tuesday, lunch.
Yeah.
Just keep that in mind. It's probably a time that I would like to go through some of the things that I've shared with superintendents and with the legislative task force and the K-12 Alliance. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and it's not negative, but I want you to know where it leads to. Almost everybody that I've talked to is of the opinion that the silo is going to come down, but they're not going to do it without some type of guarantee that they work out with educators. When I've been talking with educators, about the only idea that keeps coming up is we would like to have a guaranteed state salary schedule that would guarantee a minimum salary for teachers and would guarantee that it would be funded at a certain level. And
Are you talking about statewide?
statewide.
So
Now,
that
it could
we-
be added to.
You wouldn't have like these arms races that are developing between districts, is that what you're saying?
It would do away with that to a large extent. Because if we're in the arms race, salary race we're in right now, we're gonna lose and your Daggett's and your San Juans are gonna be absolutely the losers. We might not be hurt because we have a university that kind of feeds us, but we'll never be able to pay the teachers what the Park Cities and Canyons of the world. If you had a system that was devised, that was designed because our M&O budget is so highly used to pay salaries that if we could get a guaranteed salary schedule and the state funded on a salary schedule, Idaho funds on a class size. They don't fund on an individual unit. For every 26 kids, you get a classroom worth of funding, okay? And they do use that districts use that to set salaries. If you were to start down that road in this state, you would do two things. Salaries would go up, and eventually you might even make a dent on the number of kids that are in classes. I mean, because that's, if you couldn't start with 26 in this state. State couldn't fund it. You're gonna be somewhere in the, for every 30 or 32 kids, we'll give you a unit of funding. But that's about the only idea that we have come up with that we think has some merit. That if they would, if they tell us a percentage of the budget, they're gonna do some of the similar things that they're doing now. Yeah. And you'll never know if you got your share of the budget.
So is someone negotiating that right now, or is it?
We're just talking. And
Okay.
so what we're trying to get is the idea that just take a pause. Take a pause. Let the state auditor do his audit, and let the state board do their study. State board's doing a study. They hired the education lab out of California to come and do a comprehensive study of the financing of schools in the state. So it seems very strange that you go ahead and make a major decision without getting the results of those two. I wish the state auditor, and whoever listens to this is an open invitation to come and audit us any way he wants. I think he'll find that the return on investment in this district is really good. And I would welcome that. And I think they're just gonna do a couple more studies, and it's not gonna be anything different than what Utah Foundation has found out. I mean, there's no magic out there. You either decide you're gonna fund appropriately, or you just continue to fund as you have. I mean, that's basically the question. What you don't want to get into is funding less than we're funding now. So I would like to spend some of that time Tuesday and just go through some thoughts and ask them, please just pause. Just put it on pause for a bit. Let's get the state audit out of the way, and let's get the state board study out of the way. And then sit down with educators, and if you really want to come up with something that you think's as good as having a silo that says you have to spend the money on education, if you can convince us that there's something we can agree to together, then let's just wait a year. And I know they're probably not going to be likely to want to do it, but I also know they're all getting elected next year. And I don't think they want to go into an election and have the education issue be the main issue. If they could get that off the table, it would be a breath of fresh air for them too. So that's kind of what, so if you don't have any problems, I'm going to ask that I be able to do that. So,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
okay.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sounds like a good idea.
Just, I think they always think that all we want to do is just be contrary. I'm willing to sit down, and I think there are a lot of other educators who are willing to sit down and just say, okay, if you think that there's another method that will be better off, Lyle, I don't know if he told you, but he's told me you can't do it on income tax alone anyway. And I guess he's referring to the fact that in order to buy into this program, we have to issue our own levy to get into the state funding program. And I know we have to do that. They require us to do that. So that's not that's not something that comes in that augments and helps us. It just, everybody kicks in that little levy, and that's what gets you a ticket to the dance. But we don't receive an awful lot of money anywhere else than just plain simple income tax. And it's hard to make a case for that.
Well, it was interesting talking with him that he said, no, I think it was in the task force meeting, committee meeting that I was, when I was listening to that there were several senators on that task force who say that there's not enough local, because I assume you're referring to local.
I heard that
There's
too.
not enough local effort.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Lyle does have a lot of history in this,
Yeah.
in the state legislature, so he could say, as a legislature, we purposely have kept property tax low.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it when we pay it. He didn't say this, I'm saying this. It doesn't feel like it to some people when we pay it every year. But the legislature has made a purposeful effort to keep property tax low so that those on fixed incomes are not so heavily taxed.
And lose their homes.
And
That's
lose
the
their
end.
homes.
Yeah.
And so it's necessary to use income tax to fund
Yeah.
education.
But the president of the Taxpayers Association, I can't even remember what his name is now, he just came out with an editorial in the Desert News where he kind of, well, he just went back to 1931 and said Utah made a major mistake by implementing income tax. And then he said there were about 8 states that didn't make the mistake. Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and I can't remember the others. What he didn't come back and say, ever, and I happen to know because I have a son who lives in Texas. He just bought a new home. I know exactly what he's paying on income tax. I mean, property tax. You can do away with not having income tax, but I'm telling you what, their mortgage statement, the taxes are bigger than the payment on the home, okay? So when you make the argument that we have income tax and other states don't, and that's anti-business, I'm telling you, if people can't afford to pay taxes and we pay 55% of the market value on our home, there's a home in my neighborhood that's for sale for $300,000. My son-in-law just sold a home twice that big and looks, I mean, it's a nice home. And he sold it for $310,000 in a nice neighborhood in Waco, Texas, because the price of homes has not gone crazy down there. And then they bought another one in another neighborhood, and I know what he's paying for property tax there. So you're going to pay one way or the other. And I think income tax is much fairer than property tax for the people who are struggling. Because if they don't make much income, they're not going to pay much on tax. But you can't afford to buy even a home down there because it's not the value of the loan, it's the cost of the property tax. Yeah, so, anyway, it's an interesting discussion, but you gotta pay some way.
Well, yeah, whichever bucket they take it
Yeah.
out of, it's
So, okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, a lot to think about, and we'll see you next Thursday. Actually, we'll see you next Tuesday. We'll start visiting at 10 in the high schools that you're
Yeah,
assigned to.
and you have a list of where you're
Yep.
going.
Yep.
It's on your.
Yep, we have that. Okay, so this meeting is adjourned.
I'll take my